ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Tuesday, March 21st. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. My name is Paul Swann. I'm here until 6 o'clock. If you're new to the program, we do this every day, Monday through Friday. This is where we talk Marshall sports. We talk about anything that's happening in the world of sports that interests us. And we have a text line to take your comments. It's usually the best way to get a hold of me when it's just me solo. And I'm solo today, so the text line is open. It remains open. 304-396-TALK. 304-396-8255. Now, I do read those texts throughout the show, and so you can text me at any time. Also, I'm on Twitter, and I will respond to a lot of them, or I'll read them on the air at Paul Swann. So now you know how to get a hold of me, and you know how to be a part of the program. We've got a lot to unpack today. Yesterday, we got the word, and this was a Marshall release, that the Marshall Board of Governors would go into an emergency session, and the topic was going to be discussing athletic personnel issues. We speculated yesterday, what could that be? What could that possibly be? Now, there were a lot of things that were on the table. Probably the top two things that you said that this could be, and one of them was pretty much a known anyway, because last week on the program, Christian Spears, Marshall's athletic director, indicated to us that Dan D'Antoni would be back. That was a big question for a lot of people. Would Dan D'Antoni come back? Well, we got that answered last week. And Christian, the athletic director, was very gracious to come in, talk to me. It was a year anniversary of him taking over at Marshall University. And so one of the first things that I wanted to ask him about was the status of Marshall basketball with Dan D'Antoni. And that's what he said last week, that, hey, Dan's coming back. Dan wants to come back. Dan can come back. And so now, today was the meeting. And so it goes into executive session. So there are some things that are going to be discussed behind closed doors. And we got the word, if you were watching the session, it really wasn't that exciting. Just sitting through a video screen, honestly. Go through the procedure, they go into executive session, they come back, and then they make a vote. It was a public vote. And I had a feeling that we weren't going to get anything truly today as far as new personnel, because, first of all, we got the heads up early in the meeting, because honestly, if you were following along with Marshall Athletics, you knew that something was going to happen sooner or later with the women's basketball program. There's got to be a coach named soon. But was this going to be the meeting that it happened? And if it is the meeting that it happened, we're not going to get personnel names just yet. The Marshall University, normal channels, we'll get those that information, because there was a lot of personnel being discussed. And so we got that sort of nod that, hey, we're not going to talk about names. When we come back out of session, we're not going to mention names. Anything that's going to happen, we'll vote on it, and then that'll come out through the Marshall channels that this kind of news usually comes out of. Because, again, not going to openly discuss personnel matters. We got a vote, and we got the first bit of news from the vote. It was a 3-year contract for Dan D'Antoni. Now, as I mentioned last week, we knew Dan was coming back, but that was the first piece of news that has come out from that meeting. So Dan D'Antoni, he's coming back. He's got a 3-year extension. So how do you feel about that? It's probably going to be the first thing we're going to get into. And again, the text line's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So 3-year extension, Dan D'Antoni. It's a bad look to say goodbye to your coach if he still wants to coach after having a winning season like Marshall had. Final 2 games were not the way Marshall basketball wanted to end it, losing the regular season finale, which cost Marshall an opportunity to go into the NIT, and then losing in that first game in the Sun Belt tournament. Not the way you want to go. But still, it was a pretty good season. You can't deny that. That was a good season. No postseason opportunities because the standard for Marshall University is minimum NIT and nothing below that. So here we are. 3 years gives Dan some opportunity to not have to worry about rolling a deal over. There's some stability there. There's a lot of reasons to go into that. Some of you are happy. And again, this is all anecdotal. You've expressed off-air to me that you're happy and you're not. So we'll talk about it here, 304-396-TALK with our text line, 304-396-8255. On the other side, we're still waiting to see if there's going to be a name to come out officially. Next Marshall women's basketball coach. Now, there's a name that's been floating out there. I've discussed it as well. I've talked about it. Other sources have talked about it. There's a possibility that Marshall's next women's basketball coach, this isn't, and if I'm not confirming, I'm not denying, but there's a possibility that Glenville State's women's basketball coach, Kim Stevens, could be the next head coach of Marshall's women's basketball team. And so nothing has been decided yet. Glenville State is still in the Division II Women's Basketball Championship in the semis, Final Four there. Going to take on Ashland in the semifinals tomorrow for a chance to get back to the national championship game. So she's not even available yet. And it's broken on Twitter today. Marshall, well, I don't know his status with Marshall now, but play-by-play announcer Jake Griffith, who has done countless games for Marshall University with Herd Vision, a lot of the games on ESPN Plus, talking about Olympic sports, talking about basketball. He's done play-by-play for Marshall Athletics for years. According to his sources, and he's the only one that has the source right now. So someone has, in his confidence, given him good enough information that he felt that he was good with it and he could put it out there. So Jake today makes the announcement on his Twitter account that Kim Stevens has accepted the head coaching job at Marshall University. That's according to his sources. So he felt good enough about his source, his contact that he was speaking with to release that. And he also added initially Stevens asked Marshall to hold the announcement until the Pioneers season ended. However, now it could come as soon as today. And so all of a sudden, there are a lot of people who are on that thinking, hey, this is a great hire. Great job, Marshall. And then there are others that are on this saying, whoa, wait a minute. What are you doing here? She's still got games to coach. She's still an active coach. What are you doing here? And so people have piled on Jake. The only comment I added to it was that Jake, and I'm mentioning it now again, as I would have if I even didn't retweet this, but Jake reporting that Kim Stevens will be named as the next women's coach at Marshall. I would comment on the show. I would not confirm or deny this unless I had the source to confirm or deny this. So I can't. I cannot confirm or deny the name of the next coach. At the same time, I can say this. Nothing's written down yet. Nothing's in stone. Nothing is set. Not official until it is. Nothing is in place yet. I can say that. And so now Marshall releases a statement because there's been a lot of speculation online. Throw in the Dan D'Antoni getting 3 years and the opinions there, good or bad. And then this news, or at least this statement being released by Jake, who, again, has called countless games as a play-by-play announcer for different outlets, including Marshall University. So young play-by-play announcer. Built up a reputation. Pretty dependable, right? He's done a lot of games, so he's built up a reputation of being somebody you can rely on. I mean, you just don't get to do that many type of games. You don't get to do games unless somebody thinks you have some credibility about you. So he feels good in his source, releases this, and then, we've got everything up in the air. So now Marshall University releases a statement. This is from Marshall Athletics. It reads, the following is a statement from Marshall Athletics stemming from today's Board of Governors meeting. Today, we announced the signed contract extension of Coach D'Antoni. There is nothing else to be announced at this time, and everything else is speculation at this point. So the university felt compelled to release this statement today. The speculation will continue. So we're going to talk about this with you. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I'm just going to be upfront with you. I've talked to a few people. There's nothing that's set in stone. Her name hasn't come up as, we're just waiting. I can't confirm or deny. I can't deny his sources, but I can't confirm either. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's not true. It's just, from what I've heard, nothing is set in stone yet about anything. There's nothing that I can point to and say, this report is right or this report is wrong. But the feedback I've gotten is nothing. There's not a done deal yet. So I'll go back to, it'll be official when it is. And until then, we've got this speculation. And still, she's got a game. Kim Stevens, head coach at Glenville State. She's got a game to coach in. They're still trying to win a national championship at Glenville State. How would you like it if you were going to accept the job? You were offered the job and you're going to accept, but you wanted to hold off until after your season was done, and then you see this, and this gets out. And that is what a lot of this conversation has been today. People speculating, well, wait a minute. If this is a done deal and then this gets out like this, maybe she says thanks, but no thanks. Because players check social media, and I get that, and I'm sure that's where a lot of this conversation is. And then some people are just saying, look, it's not on Jake to hold something if he's got a scoop. So he felt confident in his source that he could put that out there. He felt confident about it. If it's accurate, then he's going to feel real good about his source. If it's not accurate, then he's going to, let's put it this way. Social media is what it is. Our text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. From our text line, someone not happy with the extension of Dan D'Antoni. Texter says, 3 more years of lunch period basketball. Go Herd. They won a lot of games. It's a bad look. It's a bad look if you tell a coach that won a lot of games and was 1 win away from winning the regular season conference championship. 1 win away. And no, we're good. Thanks, but no thanks. So what do you do in that situation? Another texter writes in and says, very smart decision on extending Coach Dan's contract. There is excitement around the program. Good home attendance. He is a great representative of Marshall University. Go Herd. So early on, there's the split I'm talking about. For some, want to see Marshall move on. For others, think that this is a good decision, keeping Dan D'Antoni on board. 3-year extension, lock him up now. There won't be any speculation. There won't be any question. He's got 3 years. You don't have to go year by year. Okay, we're going to roll this over. We're going to roll this over. So that's where we're at now. We'll get your thoughts. 304-396-TALK. 304-396-8255. Also today, and I'm going to make time for it, I went over to softball earlier today. had an opportunity to catch up with Megan Smith Lyon for a few minutes, so I went ahead and headed over to the dot. I parked. I'm thinking, okay, it's practice is almost over. I should be good here. And then a dinger flew over the fence and hit a truck maybe 3 or 4 spaces away from my car, my SUV. And I heard some crack. So I picked the ball up and I moved my vehicle. I returned the ball, but I moved my vehicle. No, practice is not exactly over. Be careful where you park, especially during softball and baseball. Be careful where you park. So we're going to hear from Megan Smith Lyon. I've got a few minutes with her. They're in action tomorrow. They're going to be traveling to Louisville to face Bellarmine and UT Martin. So just a quick impromptu conversation with Megan Smith Lyon. We'll talk to her. Also, I had a fun conversation with Alex Coleman. I'm not going to share everything, but when I'm talking to her, she has a dog. Dog's name's Joey. Her brother named her dog Joey. That was a fun icebreaker talking to her. So we'll hear from her. She has a batting average of .474. That's second in the Sun Belt. She has 27 stolen bases. That is second in the NCAA, first in the Sun Belt. That's not too shabby. So we'll hear that later on. But I want to hear from you. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. What a fun day we're going to have. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Tuesday, March 21st edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. If you just joined us, we've had a lot to get into so far. Of course, today was the Marshall Board of Governors emergency meeting. The only item that came out of that meeting that's been made public is that Coach Dan D'Antoni signing a 3-year contract extension. Everything else so far has been speculation, reinforcing that the only thing that has been announced is the extension of Dan D'Antoni, and everything else is speculation at this point. So that's where we're at. We'll get your text in, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. While all of that was going on, I ran over to softball today to catch up with Megan Smith Lyon, the Thundering Herds hitting the road. They've been outstanding, beating App State and Sun Belt play. Business as usual, or was that a statement?
You know, we approached it like business as usual, but deep down, I think it was a statement. You know, we were disappointed to not play 3, and, you know, we were kind of on a waiting whole, you know, we're going to play, we're not going to play, we're going to play, we're not going to play. So it was I was excited to see our team come out and they were chomping at the bit to get out there and compete in the Sun Belt. And I think for sure it was a statement. And a little bit, I mean, we got a long road ahead of us, but, you know, a little bit of now we can breathe. We've got one game under our belt. We're going to compete. We're going to go out and fight every time we go out. And so it's good. It was a good start for sure.
Any pressure with the success and with success, target on your back. And this could be the first team to win that Sun Belt Conference Championship for Marshall. Are you seeing any maybe a pressure as the success mounts?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, we were not picked to finish in the top of the Sun Belt, not close, right? And we had nobody on the all-conference, preseason all-conference team. So, you know, for us, it's about, we have a chip on our shoulder. We want to come out and show that we can compete. We can compete with the big dogs in the Sun Belt. It's a great conference traditionally, some national powerhouses in there. And, you know, we're just, like I said, got a chip on our shoulder. We want to go out every single day and compete and do our best for Marshall.
So with the success then, no worries that they're going to get a little complacent here. That's just basically that's a byproduct of this chip on their shoulder then.
Yeah, I mean, no complacency. We live in the moment, and, you know, we just talked about it today. Good job, but keep moving. I mean, we got to keep moving forward. We can't look back. The game has no idea what our record is every single time we go out. So every single time we go out, we're 0-0 in terms of record, and we got to fight to win each game.
Any standouts for you, even coming into this season? I'm sure there's maybe a pleasant surprise or two for you that maybe doesn't get mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I think our entire team, the way they've played together, the way they've come together, our leadership is through the roof. They're amazing people, amazing. I mean, they care about each other. They care about the school. They care about the game. And you can see that when they play. I love that. And it's hard, it's hard to pinpoint one or two people. I think it's a full team effort from top to bottom.
Going back out, more action. Hopefully, the weather will permit. Just looking ahead, what do you expect from the next game?
I mean, tomorrow, we've got UT Martin and Bellarmine, and, UT Martin's a tough team, have a hitter hitting over 500 and a pitcher that's we faced before. She was at FIU, and we know she's talented. So tomorrow is going to be tough, and it's always tough to focus and really get locked in on a midweek, when you start conference play. So that's going to test us mentally tomorrow. And then going into the weekend, a really, really solid, talented Southern Miss team coming in here. They've had a great start to their season as well, and they're a scrappy team with a phenomenal pitcher. So it's going to be a dogfight this weekend, and we're excited to do it here at home.
And the fun thing about Southern Miss is, they're not a new team.
Right. No, we've played them before. It's been a couple years, but we've played them before. They're always tough. They're always scrappy. Like I said, I predict it's going to be a dogfight from beginning to end.
Hopefully this weather stays and you're going to have a nice weekend.
It would be nice. We love playing at home. Our fans are unbelievable. We call it dot magic. There's some magic here. We love playing here. We love the support we get, so we're excited about opening up Sunbelt here at home.
That's Coach Megan Smith Lyon. Speaking to her earlier today over at the Dot. We're going to hear later from Alex Coleman. She has been outstanding so far. 27 stolen bases, second in the NCAA, first in the Sun Belt. So we'll get that later on. More of your text coming up. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Dan D'Antoni today, Marshall men's basketball coach with a 3-year extension. No other news announced today from the Marshall Board of Governors meeting, but a lot of speculation. We'll get into that with you when we continue on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Our text line is open, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Welcome back. My name is Paul Swann. You are listening to The Drive. This is ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. As I promised, let's go to that text line. Coach Dan has young, very talented players, needs and deserves time. The future looks bright to me. That is from the text line. As a texter writes in support of Dan D'Antoni receiving a 3-year extension today. Texter says, D'Antoni is undefeated in press conferences. That is sort of a reset going back to when we talked about Coach Huff and his presser, undefeated in pressers. So a good football reset to the program today with D'Antoni being undefeated in press conferences. I mean, it's not that hard. You come on, you tell us what happened. Media members ask questions, you answer them or you don't. Either way, when it's over, we talk about it and you're done with the presser. It's not that hard. Pressers are not that difficult. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says, I don't think it needs to be announced publicly if Kim Stevens got the head coaching job until her season is over. Distraction for her team trying to win a national championship. She owes that to her players in school. Marshall should respect, I think that's what you're trying to say. Marshall should be respectful. If Marshall was fearful she might be lured away from another team, then so be it. Herd needs someone who is going to be there long-term to build a program that has a tradition. So, in my mind, what has happened here is that some items that we did not get to hear because it was an executive session, some items that we didn't get to hear, happened today during the Marshall Board of Governors emergency session. And when the Board of Governors came back, there was a vote, and that vote was for Dan D'Antoni's extension, 3 years. And for the record, Dan D'Antoni's sister, Kathy D'Antoni, on the board, abstained from that vote. So, of course, that was a huge, okay, I know what this particular vote is. That was my clue. That was the giveaway there. That involved Dan D'Antoni. So she abstained. And so now you have a member of the media, independent broadcaster, Jake Griffith. Jake's a friend. He's a guy that I've talked to many a times. I've known for years. He's worked at Marshall University. He has broadcast a lot of games or been the play-by-play announcer on several Marshall broadcasts and other teams and other sporting events as well. So here's a guy that we know, a lot of us know from our time at Marshall University or watching him on the Herd Plus, Herd Vision, whatever you wanted to call it before it just went all the ESPN Plus. And so he tweets out from a source that Marshall University is going to hire Kim Stevens. She's accepted the job. And what has happened here is Jake has basically put it out there, according to his sources, she's the next coach. Marshall University has not acknowledged that. Glenville State has not acknowledged that. Kim Stevens has not acknowledged that. I don't have a source that's going on the record with that. No one else has a source at the moment that is going on record with that, or they're not saying. And this caused a stir online, a stir in social media, and a response from Marshall University came not that long ago to basically say, look, I mean, this is the statement. Today, we announced the signed contract extension of Coach D'Antoni. There is nothing else to be announced at this time, and everything else is speculation at this point. Because if this is the next head coach, then she's got a game to go coach. Because Glenville State, the reigning, defending Division II women's basketball champion, is taking on the 1 seed Ashland in the semifinals. That is coming up tomorrow, and that's going to put them, if they win, that's going to put the Lady Pioneers in the championship game once again. And so she's got games to coach. She has players that I'm sure are seeing this, reading this, hearing this. Maybe she's accepted a job and already told them. Maybe she's thinking about the job. Maybe she's been offered the job, and that's all it is right now. There's so many dynamics here. There's so many ways this could go. Marshall could have offered the job. So let's go on the theory that Marshall has offered the job. Let's go with that theory. And maybe she has accepted it, but out of respect for Glenville State, don't want to make this public until the season is over. And then a broadcaster, this wasn't just a blogger that has posted this. This is someone who has covered Marshall athletics for some time, who has worked on countless Marshall broadcasts, especially on ESPN Plus, has covered other sports for other conferences and schools as well. So a broadcaster, freelance play-by-play announcer, someone unaffiliated who has a resume and a track record. Someone informed him, a source of his, someone connected with, that he felt comfortable with, made this announcement because he felt good in his source. And then it got out early. If this is the case, it got out early. And so now everyone involved wants to hit the brakes a little bit because this is something that hasn't been announced yet, if it's true. And if it's not true, it's still speculation. And we're still speculating right now. Absolutely. We are saying that we think it might be this coach, but until it's released, it's not official. And so that's where we're at right now with all of this. And I respect that. I would want to, if I was hiring a coach away from another school and the coach said, look, I'm interested. I would love to take the job. If you offer, we're offering. Okay, everything looks good. I want to take this job. But can we sit on this until my season's done? And then the university says, yes, that's fine. University behind closed doors makes all the necessary arrangements to make sure it's a done deal. Partly because there might be other interested parties out there. There's a job opening at WVU. I don't know if that's a serious possibility at this moment, but nonetheless, it's out there, so we're going to talk about it. And so that's where we're at right now. Hopefully, Glenville State wins I would hope that Glenville State wins the national championship. 1, West Virginia school. 2, it's going to keep this thing going for a few more days, and that's going to drive some people crazy. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We'll take more of your thoughts on this. I want to hear from Alex Coleman. I want to share that with you. I talked to her earlier today when I went over to the end of softball practice. She was fun to talk to. She has a dog. Dog's named Joey. Her brother named the dog Joey. So her dog is named Joey. And so that was a fun little icebreaker talking to her. She's having a good season so far. We'll talk to her and we'll cover this a little further when we continue on today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Text line continues to be open, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. My name is Paul Swann. You can listen to the program as you do right now live. You do it weekdays 5 to 6. Or, say, for example, you can listen to the show and you want to maybe go back and listen to it. You hate that you missed it. You want to go back and listen to it. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or just pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. If where you get your podcast doesn't have The Drive, get a new ways to get podcasts. I'm just going to tell you that up front. Keeping it light for a minute here. We've had a busy day so far, and I had a chance to catch up with Alex Coleman, Marshall softball. I wrapped up practice earlier, so I had an opportunity to run over real quick. And Alex is fun to talk to. And she's also, right now, rocking the Sun Belt. She's got a .474 batting average. That's second in the Sun Belt. Her on-base percentage is .534. That's second in the Sun Belt. She has 1.40 runs per game. That's second in the Sun Belt. She has 27 stolen bases. That's first in the Sun Belt. She is rocking. She is a fun person to talk to, so it was a pleasure to get to speak to her earlier today. And I started with the stolen bases. 27. I told her that wasn't too shabby.
No, not too bad.
What do you attribute that success to?
The batters behind me, protecting me, giving up some of their strikes for me, my coach for trusting in me to get the job done.
What do you attribute the success this team's having this year to?
Our team chemistry. Our team chemistry is really great. We love one another. We hang out with each other all the time. We play for each other.
Is that rare?
Yeah, it really is. It's a special thing. It's hard to get a group of girls all on the same page how we are right now. It's a real good thing we have going.
So already undefeated in Sun Belt play. You got one game in. You unfortunately didn't get the other two, but you had to go out and win that game in style. Was that more of a statement to the Sun Belt that, hey, Marshall's here?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, first year in a new conference, we want to go out and make our mark and not give away any free games and play hard every game.
As the success continues and your team's rolling, is there any added pressure knowing that as you become more successful, Marshall's got a target on its back? This could be the first team to win that Sun Belt Conference championship for Marshall.
No, there's no pressure. I mean, it's the same game, you know, same game. You do it for fun.
Marshall softball back in action on the road, traveling to Louisville to face Bellarmine and UT Martin. Bellarmine, coach said Bellarmine, Herd softball traveling to Louisville, facing Bellarmine and UT Martin. That is going to be tomorrow. And, of course, Marshall baseball is in action right now, taking on Cincinnati. And the Herd's looking good right now. Thundering Herd leading this one 4-0 at the end of 3. Just one hit so far, according to stats, for the Cincinnati Bearcats. So Marshall beating Cincinnati 4-0. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for tuning in once again. I do appreciate it. Back with you tomorrow. Don't forget, again, on Twitter, find me at Paul Swann. Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast is where we're going to be. That's going to do it. This has been The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.